So you were married and already the mother of a child. That's what you said, right? Hannah's face turned pale. Yes, that's the truth, she admitted. Hearing her words, Adam Alexander glared at her. Prove it, girl, that you've been a mother and even nursed your baby. Come on, take off this scarf. I want to see the proof. Hearing this from Adam's mouth, Hannah's anger flared up. She snapped. What nonsense is this? Don't you feel any shame? Adam stepped closer and showed her a video on his phone. Seeing it, Hannah was shocked. She could never have imagined that this man could stoop so low. I know very well what a woman's figure looks like after nursing and how a virgin girl's body looks. Now, will you take the scarf off yourself or should I? He said, grabbing her scarf by the neck. Hannah's heart almost stopped. He added, I need to see it myself. Do you know why I'm offering you this job and what exactly you'll have to do? Adam Alexander frowned as he spoke. Yes, sir, I know, Hannah replied nervously. The 35-year-old man watched her like a hawk. His sharp gaze lingered on her. Then he said, My son needs a mother's feed, and for that, I'm willing to pay you millions. His piercing eyes made Hannah shiver. She kept adjusting her scarf again and again, because his gaze would constantly wander over her body. Yes, sir, I understand. Adam got up from his revolving chair. The girl was extremely beautiful, with large almond-shaped eyes, yet visibly nervous. He walked closer to her and said, Are you sure you were married? That your son died right after birth, and your husband passed away in an accident before your daughter's birth? Am I right, miss? Yes, sir, I've already told you that, Hannah answered. Despite not wanting to, she grew nervous under his probing eyes, as though he was searching for something in her very existence. Are you sure, Miss Hannah? Adam pressed again. His interrogation shook her deeply. Sir, why do you keep asking me the same question again and again? She protested. He smirked slightly. Because, Miss Hannah, you don't look like someone who's been married. Her face turned white. No, sir, she stuttered, utterly frightened. Seeing her distress, Adam's smile deepened. Why so nervous, Miss Hannah? I haven't asked you for any proof. I'm simply trusting your word. By now, Hannah was frustrated. Why do you keep repeating the same thing? Just speaking from experience, he replied. Anyway, your job is confirmed. I'll explain later why I asked you these questions. From now on, we'll be meeting daily. You do know you'll have to live in my house, right? Yes, sir, Hannah answered. Adam sat back down in his revolving chair. He picked up a check from the table, wrote an amount, signed it, and placed an agreement paper in front of her. Read this, Hannah. This 15 million check binds you for 1 year. You'll stay with my son. You can't go anywhere or meet anyone without my permission. Hannah skimmed through the agreement and then signed it. Taking the 15 million check, she went straight to the hospital, where her younger brother was admitted. He was a cancer patient, and that was the only reason she had agreed. She had gotten him admitted, but there was no money for treatment. Hannah had already deposited 6 months' worth of payments, but she had no idea how she would arrange the rest. Her parents were no longer alive. Her whole world was her younger brother. That's why she lied to get this job. She wasn't married, nor was she well-educated enough to land a good job that could cover her brother's treatment. So, when she heard about Adam Alexander's offer, she decided to take a chance. Many married women had come forward to be his son's wet nurse, but Adam preferred Hannah. She was beautiful, far more attractive than the others, and completely different from them. Adam had looked her over from head to toe and rejected all the other women. The moment he saw Hannah, his heart skipped a beat. For his son, he had already finalized Hannah. But when he first looked at her, she didn't seem like a married woman or like someone who had given birth. She looked delicate and untouched. Still, she appealed to his heart at first sight. Deliberately, he had prepared an agreement that required Hannah to live in his house. And because of her helplessness, she agreed. Adam could easily tell that she was a desperate girl, doing this purely out of compulsion. Many of the other women who came were also bound by circumstances, but none of them matched Hannah's beauty. Eventually, Hannah arrived at Adam Alexander's house with his driver. A maid took her to Aram's room. Aram was his infant son, just a few months old, crying restlessly at the moment. The maid handed her a feeder. For now, just give him this. Sir said you'll first be given a proper diet so that the baby can get stronger. According to him, you're too weak. Hearing this, Hannah felt a wave of surprise. Still, she took the feeder from the maid, cradled the little one in her arms, and fed him. Within minutes, he was asleep. The child looked perfectly healthy. Looking at him, no one would think he had any condition requiring mother's milk so desperately. Hannah had brought along a tin of formula and feeding supplies in her bag because she knew she'd only be giving him formula, since she was not married, nor had she ever given birth. She had lied only for her brother's sake, but she wanted to do this quietly, without anyone finding out, so that her job would continue and her brother's treatment could go on. Once the baby was asleep, Hannah realized she had no other responsibilities except caring for him. She looked around the room. The AC was on, the room was cold, so she covered the baby with a blanket. Then she thought of her brother, praying nothing would happen to him. But he had grown very weak. The doctor had said if his treatment continued for 6 straight months, there was hope he could fight the illness and recover. That's why she had taken such a huge step. Her regular job had only been enough for household expenses. Her brother's treatment had already left her with debts worth millions. She had no idea how she would arrange. Another 15 million after 6 months. As she patted the baby, lost in thought, the room's door suddenly opened. Without knocking, Adam Alexander walked in. Startled, Hannah sat up quickly and adjusted her scarf. Her forehead wrinkled in displeasure. Adam's eyes were fixed on her. "You should have knocked before coming in," she said. He replied, "My house, my room. Why should I knock?" Adam never entered with permission. Hearing this, Hannah's brows furrowed. "That's not right. It's against basic manners. A person should knock before entering," she insisted. He smirked. "Save those moral lessons for someone else. I didn't give you 15 million for you to lecture me on ethics." Then, calling out to the maid, he asked, "Is the menu I gave you ready?" "Yes, sir, everything is ready," the maid replied. "Set the food on the table," Adam ordered. Then, turning to Hannah, he added, "Miss Hannah, you'll eat at the dining table in front of me. I don't want you neglecting your diet and making my son weak. Come with me. The food must be ready by now." Hannah couldn't quite understand his words. Anyway, when she came outside, the table was already set. There was beef curry, along with minced meat and potatoes. In addition, there was chicken tikka. In short, everything was made of either meat or chicken. Hannah, however, preferred eating vegetables and lentils. Fate had mostly fed her the same. She sat at the table and then said to Adam Alexander, "Tell your servants to make some lentils or vegetables tomorrow as well." "I'm not used to eating so much meat and chicken," Adam replied. "You'll have to eat whatever I want you to eat. Here, everything will be done according to my wishes, Miss Hannah." Hearing this, Hannah felt strange. The man was talking to her as if he were her owner. She said, "I don't understand what you mean. Mr. Adam, what exactly are you trying to say?" He answered, "I've said it clearly. Look, Miss Hannah, your diet is directly related to my son's health, and you, of all people, should understand that. After all, you were married and already a mother once. Even though your child only lived for a few days, you must know that a mother's healthy diet is the guarantee of her child's health. That's why I want you to eat well. Have you looked at yourself? You don't look healthy at all." Saying this, he picked up the bowl of minced meat and put a spoonful onto Hannah's plate. "Finish this. Eat it with a spoon if you like. After that, there are other dishes as well." Hannah protested, "I don't eat this much." "I'm not used to it." Adam responded sharply, "There it is again! No, Miss Hannah, not your choice, mine. My word will rule here." He pointed at his chest with his index finger. "I'll decide what you eat, what you drink, how you live. Because you're my son's caretaker. He will be raised and nurtured by you. So, of course, you'll have to live according to my rules. Your waking, sleeping, sitting, standing, everything will be as I want it. And I already mentioned all of this in the agreement you signed." At that moment, Hannah's mind was filled only with the doctor's words. "Arrange the money soon, because if your brother's treatment doesn't start, we can't guarantee his life, and his condition will get even worse." She hadn't even read the agreement properly, just signed it, took the check, and rushed to the hospital. Now she sat quietly with her eyes down. Adam placed a napkin on his lap and said, "Miss Hannah, start eating." Hannah thought if she ate the minced meat with bread, she wouldn't be able to eat anything else afterward. So, she picked up a spoon and began eating with it. Still, the portion of meat was too much, and even with the spoon, her stomach felt full. But then Adam poured beef curry onto her plate and handed her bread. "Now eat this," he ordered. "Please, I can't eat any more," Hannah pleaded. Oh, but you must, Miss Hannah, because all night my son will need you. He'll feed from you, satisfy his hunger by clinging to your chest. So you need nourishment too. The way Adam said it, biting his lower lip, made her feel extremely uneasy. The look he gave her afterward sent chills through her body, like ants crawling on her skin. His piercing eyes made her tremble. Hannah's patience broke within a single day. She stood up. Please sit down, Miss Hannah. At least eat half the bread. I'll ask the maid to put a glass of milk in your room, too, so you don't feel weak when my son feeds, Adam insisted. But Hannah was unsettled. She quickly went back to her room. She had thought this job would be simple. But within just 4 hours, Adam had made her life miserable. Restless, she began to feel she had made the wrong decision. This man is already trying to control me. He never discussed any of this with me. Who knows what exactly is written in that agreement? Hannah thought. Still, Adam's behavior, dictating what she ate, drank how she sat. When she slept, everything about it felt strange to her. And his expressions, gestures, and piercing eyes made her feel even more uncomfortable. Anyway, at midnight, Aram woke up crying again. Hannah opened her eyes and quickly took the feeder out of her bag. She washed it thoroughly, prepared formula milk, and fed it to Aram. After drinking, the baby fell asleep again. She cleaned the feeder with tissues, put it back in her bag, and zipped it shut. At night, she wasn't used to sleeping with a scarf, so she took out her nightsuit, which was a loose shirt and trousers, and went into the washroom. After taking a cold shower, she changed into her nightsuit and lay down on the bed. Although the AC was on, after bathing she felt peaceful. Within minutes, she fell asleep. At 6 a.m., Aram's crying woke her again. She quickly gave him the feeder, changed his diaper, and soon Aram fell asleep on her chest. But in the morning, when she opened her eyes, she woke up startled because Adam Alexander was in the room, staring at her without blinking. She had felt his piercing gaze on her, and that was what woke her up. As soon as she saw Adam Alexander in front of her, she quickly sat up in shock. Her scarf was lying on the sofa at that moment. She hadn't even changed her clothes yet, and he was watching her intently. Hannah placed both her hands over her chest to cover herself, and Adam Alexander's smile deepened. She said, "What are you doing here?" He replied, "I told you last night, this is my house. I can come and go anywhere I please." She said, "But I am not your slave. I'm not even your close relation that you could walk into my room without knocking. I will never allow this." Then she quickly got up, grabbed her scarf from the sofa, and wrapped it around herself. He said, "I only came to ask if you had any difficulty during the night, and if Aram troubled you too much." She replied, "No, he didn't trouble me, but from now on, you will not come in without knocking." He said, "All right, I'll do that." Then he asked, "Did you drink milk last night?" He had probably only come to interrogate her. Anyway, he said, "Take special care of your diet. Otherwise, I'll have to feed you milk with my own hands by force." Then he left the room. Hannah changed her clothes. By that time, Aram had also woken up. She bathed him, dressed him in clean clothes, and laid him on the bed. He began to play. Time kept moving forward. Hannah's anxiety doubled whenever Adam came home. He would ask her about every little thing. How many times a day does my son feed? Do you have any difficulties? Questions that husbands usually ask their wives about their children, and all in a very casual, commanding tone. 1 month later, the doctor called. He had summoned Hannah to the hospital because her brother's condition wasn't improving. During dinner that night, she said to Adam, "Sir, I need to go to the hospital. My brother isn't doing well, that's why the doctor called me." She was very worried. Adam was eating salad. He said, "All right. When I go to the office in the morning, be ready, I'll take you." She said, "No, sir. I'll go by myself. I just need 3 or 4 hours off." At this, his forehead creased. He said, "What do you mean, 3 or 4 hours? Miss Hannah, I can only give you 1 hour off. At most, I'll drop you at the hospital. And after an hour, the driver will pick you up. Anyway, my child is getting used to you now. I don't want him to miss you and start crying. I can't bear to see tears in his eyes. And the hospital is not a place where I can send my child with you, so you cannot get more than 1 hour off." He didn't even ask why her brother was admitted or why she needed to go. Hannah wished he would ask, so she could explain that her brother was suffering from a dangerous disease, and maybe Adam would feel some sympathy and give her the money. because after 6 months, she urgently needed 1.5 million rupees. But he never asked. Adam only dropped her at the hospital and left. She met her brother, who looked even weaker than before. The doctor said, "He doesn't take his medicines on time. Whenever we give him injections, he fights and resists." Hannah said, "Why are you behaving like this?" Farhan replied, "Sister, I don't want to stay here." "For God's sake, take me away." "I don't want to live here." Hannah said, "If it were in my control, I would take you, but it isn't. And here, you're getting proper treatment. You will get better." With great difficulty, she convinced her brother. When she looked at the clock, the hour was almost over. Just then, the driver called her phone, saying he was waiting downstairs. Hannah comforted her brother and urged him to continue the treatment. When she returned home, she heard Aram crying. She quickly took him in her arms. Hannah fed the baby. For a while, he kept playing with it. Then he fell asleep. At night, Hannah felt as if piercing eyes were once again fixed on her. She opened her eyes. The room was dark. Then it felt as though someone's fingers were slowly running across her neck. She immediately screamed and sat up. Quickly reaching out, she switched on the lamp. And right in front of her was Adam Alexander. No one knew under what emotions, but his eyes were bloodshot. He too was dressed in a nightsuit. Seeing him, she was terribly frightened. Watching the intoxication in his eyes, Hannah was shaken to the core. She stood up at once and said, "What are you doing in my room at this hour?" He replied, "I just couldn't sleep." Saying this, he stepped closer to Hannah. With his index finger, he brushed away the strands of hair scattered across her face. But she instantly pushed his hand back. She said, "What kind of indecency is this? Go outside! From now on, I'll sleep with the door locked." He said, "How can you talk like that? I've already paid you in advance. You can't leave before a year." He added, "Oh, come on. Your husband died in your youth. You must feel his absence, don't you?" Step by step, he kept moving closer to Hannah. She replied, "What are you saying?" Hannah hated his interrogative tone. She replied, "No, I'm not in the habit of drinking milk before sleeping." He said, "Then get into the habit, because I don't want my child to have even the slightest weakness. I've heard that if a woman drinks fresh milk, its effect passes on to the child as well. Is that true?" At Adam's words, Hannah felt like running away. She snapped angrily, "I don't know anything about that." "How can you not know? You must have fed your own children too. Mothers know all these things. What kind of mother were you if you didn't even know this?" He had probably only come to interrogate her. Anyway, he said, "Take special care of your diet. Otherwise, I'll have to feed you milk with my own hands by force." Then he left the room. Hannah changed her clothes. By that time, Aram had also woken up. She bathed him, dressed him in clean clothes, and laid him on the bed. He began to play. Time kept moving forward. Hannah's anxiety doubled whenever Adam came home. He would ask her about every little thing. "How many times a day does my son feed? Do you have any difficulties?" Questions that husbands usually ask their wives about their children, and all in a very casual, commanding tone. 1 month later, the doctor called. He had summoned Hannah to the hospital because her brother's condition wasn't improving. During dinner that night, she said to Adam, "Sir, I need to go to the hospital. My brother isn't doing well, that's why the doctor called me." She was very worried. Adam was eating salad. He said, "All right. When I go to the office in the morning, be ready, I'll take you." She said, "No, sir. I'll go by myself. I just need 3 or 4 hours off." At this, his forehead creased. He said, "What do you mean, 3 or 4 hours? Miss Hannah, I can only give you 1 hour off. At most, I'll drop you at the hospital. And after an hour, the driver will pick you up. Anyway, my child is getting used to you now. I don't want him to miss you and start crying. I can't bear to see tears in his eyes. And the hospital is not a place where I can send my child with you. So you cannot get more than 1 hour off." He didn't even ask why her brother was admitted or why she needed to go. Hannah wished he would ask, so she could explain that her brother was suffering from a dangerous disease, and maybe Adam would feel some sympathy and give her the money. Because after 6 months, she urgently needed 1.5 million rupees. But he never asked. Adam only dropped her at the hospital and left. She met her brother, who looked even weaker than before. The doctor said, "He doesn't take his medicines on time. Whenever we give him injections, he fights and resists." Hannah said, "Why are you behaving like this?" Farhan replied, "Sister, I don't want to stay here. For God's sake, take me away." I don't want to live here, Hannah said. If it were in my control, I would take you, but it isn't. And here, you're getting proper treatment. You will get better. With great difficulty, she convinced her brother. When she looked at the clock, the hour was almost over. Just then, the driver called her phone, saying he was waiting downstairs. Hannah comforted her brother and urged him to continue the treatment. When she returned home, she heard Aram crying. She quickly took him in her arms. Hannah fed the baby. For a while, he kept playing with it. Then he fell asleep. At night, Hannah felt as if piercing eyes were once again fixed on her. She opened her eyes. The room was dark. Then it felt as though someone's fingers were slowly running across her neck. She immediately screamed and sat up. Quickly reaching out, she switched on the lamp. And right in front of her was Adam Alexander. No one knew under what emotions, but his eyes were bloodshot. He, too, was dressed in a nightsuit. Seeing him, she was terribly frightened. Watching the intoxication in his eyes, Hannah was shaken to the core. She stood up at once and said, "What are you doing in my room at this hour?" He replied, "I just couldn't sleep." Saying this, he stepped closer to Hannah. With his index finger, he brushed away the strands of hair scattered across her face. But she instantly pushed his hand back. She said, "What kind of indecency is this?" "Go outside! From now on, I'll sleep with the door locked." He said, "How can you talk like that? I've already paid you in advance. You can't leave before a year." He added, "Oh, come on, your husband died in your youth. You must feel his absence, don't you?" Step by step, he kept moving closer to Hannah. She replied, "What are you saying?" Hannah hated his interrogative tone. She replied, "No, I'm not in the habit of drinking milk before sleeping." He said, "Then get into the habit, because I don't want my child to have even the slightest weakness. I've heard that if a woman drinks fresh milk, its effect passes on to the child as well. Is that true?" At Adam's words, Hannah felt like running away. She snapped angrily, "I don't know anything about that. How can you not know? You must have fed your own children too. Mothers know all these things. What kind of mother were you if you didn't even know this?" He had probably only come to interrogate her. "Anyway," he said, "take special care of your diet. Otherwise, I'll have to feed you milk with my own hands by force." Then he left the room. Hannah changed her clothes. By that time, Arham had also woken up. She bathed him, dressed him in clean clothes, and laid him on the bed. He began to play. Time kept moving forward. Hannah's anxiety doubled whenever Adam came home. He would ask her about every little thing. "How many times a day does my son feed? Do you have any difficulties?" Questions that husbands usually ask their wives about their children. And all in a very casual, commanding tone. 1 month later, the doctor called. He had summoned Hannah to the hospital because her brother's condition wasn't improving. During dinner that night, she said to Adam, "Sir, I need to go to the hospital. My brother isn't doing well, that's why the doctor called me." She was very worried. Adam was eating salad. He said, "All right, when I go to the office in the morning, be ready, I'll take you." She said, "No, sir. I'll go by myself. I just need 3 or 4 hours off." At this, his forehead creased. He said, "Well, what do you mean, 3 or 4 hours? Miss Hannah, I can only give you 1 hour off. At most, I'll drop you at the hospital, and after an hour, the driver will pick you up. Anyway, my child is getting used to you now. I don't want him to miss you and start crying. I can't bear to see tears in his eyes, and the hospital is not a place where I can send my child with you, so you cannot get more than 1 hour off." He didn't even ask why her brother was admitted or why she needed to go. Hannah wished he would ask, so she could explain that her brother was suffering from a dangerous disease, and maybe Adam would feel some sympathy and give her the money, because after 6 months she urgently needed 1.5 million rupees, but he never asked. Adam only dropped her at the hospital and left. She met her brother, who looked even weaker than before. The doctor said, "He doesn't take his medicines on time. Whenever we give him injections, he fights and resists." Hannah said, "Why are you behaving like this?" Farhan replied, "Sister, I don't want to stay here. For God's sake, take me away. I don't want to live here." Hannah said, "If it were in my control, I would take you, but it isn't. And here, you're getting proper treatment. You will get better." With great difficulty, she convinced her brother. When she looked at the clock, the hour was almost over. Just then, the driver called her phone, saying he was waiting downstairs. Hannah comforted her brother and urged him to continue the treatment. When she returned home, she heard Aram crying. She quickly took him in her arms. Hannah fed the baby. For a while, he kept playing with it. Then he fell asleep. At night, Hannah felt as if piercing eyes were once again fixed on her. She opened her eyes. The room was dark. Then it felt as though someone's fingers were slowly running across her neck. She immediately screamed and sat up. Quickly reaching out, she switched on the lamp. And right in front of her was Adam Alexander. No one knew under what emotions, but his eyes were bloodshot. He, too, was dressed in a nightsuit. Seeing him, she was terribly frightened. Watching the intoxication in his eyes, Hannah was shaken to the core. She stood up at once and said, "What are you doing in my room at this hour?" He replied, "I just couldn't sleep." Saying this, he stepped closer to Hannah. With his index finger, he brushed away the strands of hair scattered across her face. But she instantly pushed his hand back. She said, "What kind of indecency is this?" "Go outside! From now on, I'll sleep with the door locked." He said, "How can you talk like that? I've already paid you in advance. You can't leave before a year." He added, "Oh, come on, your husband died in your youth. You must feel his absence, don't you?" Step by step, he kept moving closer to Hannah. She replied, "What are you saying?" He said, "I haven't said anything unusual. At this age, how do you control your emotions? Doesn't your heart long for someone to whisper sweet words and give you comfort? My wife divorced me 3 months ago, before Aram was even born. As soon as my son came into this world, she handed him over to me, cut off all ties, and you know what? The moment her waiting period ended, she got married again. Because just as a man cannot live without a woman cannot live without a man. Tonight, I too am feeling my wife's absence deeply. I thought maybe you'd be awake. Perhaps the same desire is troubling you as well." Hannah said, "Speak to me with respect. Don't utter such nonsense. That would be better." Adam Alexander smiled and said, Okay. Why are you getting angry? Fine. I'll talk about something else. Your brother has cancer, am I right?" He took another step toward Hannah. Now she was pressed against the wall. She replied, "Yes." He said, "His treatment costs millions and you don't have that kind of money. Am I right?" Hannah answered, "Yes, but why are you asking?" He said, "If you want me to cover all your brother's expenses, then you'll have to do one thing." Hannah asked, "What is that?" Adam Alexander replied, "Marry me." But Hannah flatly refused. She said, "No, I'm already engaged, and my fiancé has gone to Saudi Arabia for a while. He'll be back within a year and I'll marry him. I'll manage my brother's treatment with my own hard-earned money." "Don't you worry." Hannah's refusal seemed to ignite a fire inside Adam Alexander. He said, "What do you mean?" "What fiancé?" "What are you talking about?" "Your husband passed away just a few months ago, and your child, who lived only for a few days, also died. Am I right?" Hannah was stunned. In her haste, she had blurted out the truth. Indeed, her fiancé was in Saudi Arabia, and she wasn't married yet. She had lied only to get this job. But now it felt like she was completely trapped. How could a married woman who was also a mother have a fiancé? "Tell me, isn't that right?" His eyes turned red. Behind her was the wall, and Hannah was completely panicked. She said, "After my husband's death, a young man proposed to me. That's what I meant." Hannah stumbled to cover her words. "So you were married and already a mother. Isn't that what you said?" Hannah's complexion turned pale. "Yes, that is the truth." Hearing her, Adam Alexander glared at her. "Prove it, girl, that you were once a mother and that you even breastfed your child. Come on, remove that scarf. I want proof." At his words, Hannah flared up with rage. "What kind of insolence is this? Don't you feel ashamed?" Hearing this, Adam stepped closer and showed her a video on his phone. What Hannah saw shocked her to the core. She could never have imagined that this man was capable of such a vile act. "I know very well how a woman's figure looks when she breastfeeds and how the figure of a single girl looks. Now, will you remove the scarf yourself, or should I?" Saying this, Adam grabbed Hannah's scarf by the neck. Her life nearly slipped away in fear. "I want to see," he said. Hannah quickly shoved his hand away. The truth was out. What she didn't know was that he had installed a hidden camera in the room. He had already shown her a video of her preparing formula, milk, and feeding it to Arham. "If you've already been married and are a mother, then why are you feeding my child powdered milk instead of your own? I gave you 15 lakhs for this very thing, and in the agreement, it was clearly written that in case of fraud, you'd return not 15 but 30 lakhs. You are feeding my child formula instead of your own milk. According to the agreement, you owe me 30 lakhs, Hannah, and that too within 1 day. You have 24 hours. In these 24 hours, either you return the 30 lakhs or you marry me. If you marry me, I'll bear all your brother's medical expenses. And besides, he added with a chilling tone, I'm very curious to know how your figure looks after becoming a mother. Leaving his words hanging in the air, Adam Alexander shook Hannah to her core and walked out of the room. Hannah was left trembling. Hannah felt as though if someone pricked her, not a drop of blood would come out. Her face had turned crimson red. She had absolutely no idea her truth could be exposed so quickly. Moistening her throat, she let out a heavy sigh. Casting a glance around the room, her eyes suddenly fell on a small camera fixed to the wall. How could she have made such a huge mistake? She held her head in her hands and sat down. Just then, Aram began to cry. Seeing him cry, she quickly picked him up in her arms. But her mind was still stuck on the camera. Nervously, though hesitantly, she once again prepared formula milk for Aram, fed him, laid him back on the bed, and then stepped out of the room. Adam Alexander was sitting on the sofa, legs crossed, reading a newspaper. He knew very well the girl would now come to him, apologizing, trying to make excuses. Thinking this, a serious smile spread across his face, and soon exactly that happened. Hannah hurried toward him and said, Sir, the biggest mistake I made was that I didn't carefully read the agreement. And as for the second matter, actually, sir, if I had known there was a camera installed here, I would have been more cautious. I never imagined you would keep such a close watch on me. She was simply twisting her words, trying desperately to make something up. Adam said, Why are you beating around the bush? Say something new that makes sense to me. You deceived me, do you understand? It's not so easy to deceive Adam Alexander. And those who do, they face punishment. Don't stand there bleeding like a goat in front of me. He stood with his arms folded across his chest. But Hannah immediately broke down in tears and said, You're misunderstanding me, sir. I do feed your son myself. I only gave him formula because, as you say, I'm weak. I was married too early, and too early I became a mother. My husband barely managed to feed me simple meals. Many times I had to go to sleep hungry. That's why I never had the strength to nourish myself properly, let alone my child. I even tried to breastfeed your son, but his stomach wouldn't fill. That's why I also began giving him formula. She wanted, at any cost, to spin the story and convince him. But Adam Alexander knew the truth all too well. Looking her over from head to toe, he said, All right, but how am I supposed to believe you? Whatever the case, you acted without my consent. Now, within 24 hours, either return my 30 lakhs or marry me. He moved so close that his hot breath fanned across her face. Then turning back to look at her, he said, You're a good girl, Hannah, and you're beautiful. Surely your first husband must have been madly in love with you. I hope you'll make the right decision in my favor. With that, he smiled and walked away. Hannah collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. She didn't even have a single rupee for her brother's treatment. Where would she get 30 lakhs from? If she married Adam Alexander, not only would her brother's treatment be free, but her debts would also be forgiven. Letting out a deep sigh, she looked at Aram and decided, for the last time, to call her fiancé. The same man who had always made grand promises of love, who claimed he would do anything for her. He used to paint the sky and earth with his words. Hannah dialed his number. At first, the phone was switched off. Later, when the call finally connected, he answered cheerfully, saying, After so many weeks, how come you suddenly remembered me? I thought you'd completely forgotten me. Hannah burst into tears and said, You love me, don't you? He replied, Of course I do. I'd even give my life for you. But what happened? Why are you crying? Is your brother's illness getting worse? Crying, she said, I need money. Can you help me? Hearing this, Hannah's fiancé said, Yes, yes, tell me, how much do you need? 10,000? 3,000? I'll send it right away. But she kept sobbing and said, No, I need lakhs of rupees. I've fallen into a terrible crisis. My brother, Hannah was still speaking about the money when the phone suddenly cut off. She tried calling again, but this time the phone was switched off. She understood clearly now. Her fiancé was not going to help her. It was almost 11 p.m. She sat there silently, lost in thought, wondering how she would ever get out of this mess. The way Adam Alexander looked at her, it was filled with an intense burning desire. It seemed as though there was an uncontrollable hunger inside him for women, a hunger so fierce it could consume anyone in its path. She despised men like that, men who constantly craved intimacy, who were never satisfied, who treated their wives as objects of pleasure. She was still lost in her thoughts when Adam suddenly came and sat down, close beside her on the steps. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" he asked. "Still haven't made a decision? Have you arranged the 30 lakhs yet?" Seeing him sitting so close to her, she panicked and quickly stood up. He had already cornered her from every side. There was no way out now. This time, when he asked, "So what's your plan for tomorrow morning?" "Look, I can't tolerate this distance anymore. You take care of my son's needs, why not mine too? What harm is there in that?" For the sake of her brother's treatment, she drew in a deep breath and said, "If I marry you, will you take care of my brother? Will you pay for his treatment?" Adam replied, "Of course. I'll make sure your brother recovers and returns home healthy." Taking another deep breath, she reluctantly agreed to the marriage. Adam's eyes lit up with a gleam as though he had just discovered a hidden treasure. The very next day, Hannah was dressed as a bride. She wore a red frock with her dupatta draped simply and modestly around her. When Adam entered the room wearing a kurta pajama, his forehead creased at the sight of her holding her dupatta so tightly. Staring at her for a moment, he said, "You really are beautiful. But what's this? Why are you wearing your dupatta like that? Don't you know how brides are supposed to wear it? Move it back off your shoulders." Hearing this, Hannah became flustered. When he stepped closer to adjust her dupatta himself, she pulled away and said, "Please, our marriage hasn't happened yet. Until the nikah is done, you cannot touch me." Adam smirked. "All right then. 10 more minutes of waiting won't hurt." With that, both he and Hannah sat down with the Maulvi. A few witnesses were also present. In their presence, both exchanged ijab kubul. Taking a deep breath, tears rolled down Hannah's cheeks as she prayed silently. Perhaps this was her fate. It felt as though she was selling her honor, trading her beauty. She feared that once Adam had enjoyed a few nights with her, he would toss her aside like something worthless. But Adam's face was lit with joy. From the first moment he had laid eyes on Hannah, he had lost himself to her completely. Once the guests left, Aram began crying. Adam said, "Go, quiet him down. And please, make sure you put him to sleep quickly tonight. You know what night this is, our wedding night." The mere mention of wedding night made Hannah shiver. She knew full well she was still a virgin. No man had ever touched her before. She had no idea what Adam would do with her now. Half-heartedly, she tried to put Aram to sleep. But the child wouldn't settle. 3 times Adam came to the doorway, staring at her, each time with more intensity. Finally, after some time, Aram fell asleep. It was 11 p.m. when Hannah looked at the clock and thought, by now Adam must have gone to sleep. Deciding she would also lie down with Aram and use him as an excuse in the morning, she got into bed beside the child, covered herself with the comforter, and closed her eyes. But like a sword hanging over her head, Adam appeared once again. Standing close, he cleared his throat. Startled, she sat up quickly and adjusted her dupatta. Watching her so nervous gave Adam a strange sense of satisfaction. "Go sit in the bedroom," he said, "the way a new bride sits. Surely you know how a new bride waits, don't you? After all, this isn't your first time. Someone must have lifted your veil before. Someone must have praised your beauty, just like I used to on my own wedding night. And just as I enjoyed my first night with my wife, I'm sure you enjoyed yours too. Tonight, I'll make your night so colorful you won't even believe it." Saying this with a faint smile, he walked inside. Without looking back, Hannah followed him. Her steps felt heavy, her body trembling. She wanted desperately to confess the truth to him, but fear held her back. She sat down as a bride, her veil covering her face. Adam entered the room, took quick steps toward her, and sat beside her. Taking her delicate hand, he pressed his lips against it, then lifted her veil. Seeing her trembling lashes and quivering lips, his heart raced. "You really are beautiful," he said. "Any man could go mad looking at you. And me? I'm Adam Alexander, the admirer of beauty, the lover of beauty." Saying this, he placed his hand on her neck and began gently caressing it. Hannah's fear only grew. She began breathing faster as his gaze slid down from her neck and rested lower. With a slight smirk, he said, "A woman's true charm lies in her feminine beauty. But in you, I don't see any of that. Normally, after marriage, women become plump, radiant, filled with their husband's love. But you? Why haven't you? Did your husband never love you? Or was he too tired from labor with no time left for you?" Adam was deliberately taunting her, trying to force her into revealing the truth. He knew very well she wasn't married. She was still a virgin. Hannah snapped, "Why do you keep bringing up my so-called husband? Aren't you ashamed? I am now your wife. And this is how you speak to me?" Seeing her talk back, Adam's expression hardened. "Stay in your limits. Don't forget, I married you in exchange for 30 lakhs and your brother's treatment. Who knows how many more lakhs, even crores, will be needed for him. So lower your voice." Then, with a smirk, he said, "Take off your dupatta." Silently, Hannah removed it and set it aside. "Now," he continued, "open the zipper of your frock, slowly. Loosen it." He said this in a deliberately seductive tone. Flustered, she hesitated, then moved her hand toward the zipper and began opening it. The very next moment, Adam could no longer control himself. He drew closer, pressing his lips to her neck. He wanted to completely engulf her, to pour all his passion into her fragile body. His intensity made Hannah tremble with fear, her whole being shuddering as though an electric current had run through her. She had never experienced anything like this before. Fear and a strange sense of peace mingled within her. Then came the moment Adam wanted to fully consume her. Tears welled in Hannah's eyes as she whispered softly, "Please, please, sir, I want to tell you something." But Adam silenced her by pressing his lips to hers. The night was filled with unspoken pain. Adam poured all his passion into her, insatiable, all through the night. She lay lifeless on the bed. When morning came and Adam woke around 8 a.m., Hannah was still in his arms, asleep. Glancing at the bed, his eyes widened in shock. He had thought she was just another woman. But the truth lay bare before him. The girl was untouched. The bedsheet bore witness. Hannah had never been married. Adam was the first man in her life. Just then, Hannah stirred awake. Her whole body ached from the intensity she had endured the night before. Adam had assumed that because she was a mother, this would be nothing new for her. But the sight of the sheet told him otherwise. Ashamed, pained, Hannah tried to gather herself and rise from the bed. But Adam pulled her back by the arm, drawing her close. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Did I give you permission to leave the bed?" "Please," she begged. "Let me go. I'm in pain. I need to get medicine." But Adam held her arms tightly. After putting it in front of her, Hannah's face turned completely red. Adam had bought several different nighties for her, and after making the payment, he brought them home with him. Hannah finally sighed in relief. When they reached home, she handed Arham over to another maid, and Adam took Hannah straight into his room. He said, "All I want is for you to try on all these nighties. Whichever one looks best on you, that's the one I'll spend tonight with you in." She wondered how someone could be this obsessed. Why didn't this man ever get tired? Hannah sat there holding her head. Sometimes he made her wear one nightie, then another, then pulled out yet another to see how it looked. She grew exhausted from trying them all on. Finally, he liked one of them. Moving closer once again, he bent over her and started showering his passion on her. Hannah, on the other hand, lay there like a robot, tears rolling down her cheeks. If it had been someone else, someone she truly loved, she would have asked him, "Am I only here to be used? Is my body just for a man's pleasure? Don't women have emotions of their own? Do rich men marry women like us only for their children and their satisfaction?" She was lost in these painful thoughts when Adam suddenly looked at her cold, lifeless expression. Frowning, he asked, "What's wrong with you? Come on, cooperate with me, do you understand?" But she kept crying and looking at him. Through her tears, she said, "Do whatever you want with me, but I'm tired. It hasn't even been a week since our marriage, and I'm already exhausted." Adam's eyes widened in surprise, but she kept sobbing. She continued, "I also had dreams. I wanted my husband to love me, to respect me. I never liked men who are slaves to their desires. I hated men who see women as nothing more than flesh to consume. But my fate, it brought me to you. You never even gave me a chance to love you. Instead, every moment with you has only filled me with annoyance and hatred." Hannah's words poured out like a confession, and Adam sat there silently listening. Memories stormed his mind. These weren't the first words of their kind. Someone else had once said the exact same things to him years ago. His heartbeat quickened. His body grew hot, drenched in sweat. Hannah was still talking, but Adam suddenly walked out of the room. He clutched his chest as he stepped into the courtyard, where light rain and a cool breeze were falling. Closing his eyes, He heard those same words echo in his mind. They were the words of his first wife, Zartasha, the woman he once claimed to love, the woman he had spent nights with in the name of love. In the beginning, she had cooperated, but slowly she grew irritated, then started crying, screaming, until she couldn't take it anymore. Even when she became a mother, Adam's obsession never ended. Finally, fed up with his constant demands, Zartasha had decided to file for divorce. She even went to court. Adam had always been addicted to beautiful women, but he was the kind of man who stayed with only one woman at a time. When the divorce case began, Zartasha was pregnant. Adam had loved her, but he openly declared, "You'll leave me only after handing me my child. Then I'll give you the divorce." For the first time in his life, Adam's world had shifted. He thought maybe by the time the baby was born, she would come back to him. But Zartasha was firm. The moment her son was born, she sent him to Adam through her mother and remarried Asum. As her waiting period ended, years passed. For 35 years, Adam convinced himself he would never marry again, never let another woman into his life. But then Hannah came. She was the second woman after Zartasha to truly change his life. Through her, Adam realized that what he had felt for Zartasha wasn't real love. It was just lust for her body. True love, he now understood, was what he felt for Hannah. Yet today, seeing tears in Hannah's eyes, Adam realized how wrong he had been. He had never considered what his wife must go through after his relentless passion. That night he didn't sleep at all. The next morning, without even having breakfast, he left for the office. Hannah grew anxious. A fear consumed her. What if Adam, out of anger, stopped paying for her brother's treatment? That evening, when he returned home, Hannah was sitting in a corner, crying. Seeing her, Adam walked over and asked, "What happened? Why are you crying? Is everything okay? Your brother at the hospital, he's fine, right?" Through sobs, she folded her hands and said, "Please forgive me. I spoke harshly to you. I shouldn't have said those things. I'm ashamed. Do whatever you want with me, however you want. But I forgot that you've paid for everything in my life. I promise I'll never say such things again." She cried harder as she said this. But Adam, for the first time, felt deeply ashamed. He pulled her into his arms. "No," he said softly. "Just promise me one thing, you'll never say those words to me again. I'm the one who should apologize. I promise. Until you want me, I won't come near you. I truly love you now. You're the mother of my child, and you deserve my love." In that moment, Hannah thought he was just saying empty words. But slowly, Adam began to change. He no longer came near her without her permission, not even to touch her. Gradually, Hannah transformed him completely. In Adam's love, Hannah finally found the kind of man she had always wished for. Within a month, her brother fully recovered and came home. All of this was possible only because of Adam. That day, when Hannah came back home, she stood before the mirror, stunned. In just a few months, she had filled out. She was no longer the weak, thin Hannah she once was. Her figure had grown even more beautiful. Truly, a man's love changes a woman. She smiled softly. When Adam walked in, he kissed her neck gently. But then he pulled away and said, "Sorry, the fragrance of your body is driving me crazy. That's why I came close." As he raised his hand to move away, Hannah pulled him closer instead and whispered, "No, this is enough. I want tonight to be a night I'll never forget." She smiled as she said this. Adam, perhaps waiting for this very moment, lifted her into his arms and carried her to the bed. Adam Alexander brought Hannah close to him. For a while, they exchanged words of love, and then both of them began to pour their passion onto each other. All the complaints and grievances had been washed away, and now life was filled with nothing but happiness.